move on. And so on September the 11th, 2001, the United States was attacked by an Al-Qaeda terrorist group. And at that point, we decided we'd go to war. And we blamed the people of Afghanistan for harboring Osama bin Laden, who we believed was mastermind behind the attack. So we went to war in Afghanistan, and we're still there. I mean, the war has almost gone on as long as the Vietnam War. Actually, it's now gone on longer. I remember when we'd been there a few years, said this war has gone on longer than World War II. Well, now we've been in Iraq longer than Vietnam, and been in Afghanistan longer than Vietnam. And shortly after going to Afghanistan, we went to Iraq and deposed Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was tried for war crimes and killed by his own people. And as I've already mentioned, the Iraqis seem to be no better off than they were before. If anything, they're worse. Your book then starts to talk about revolution in the Middle East, and in the early months of 2011, that's the last your authors can say about it, because that's when they published the book. There was a whole lot of uprisings in the Middle East. Beginning in Tunisia, the uprising spread to Egypt, and then spread to Syria, Libya, and Yemen, and folks are still going on. At that point, your authors could not comment further, but the uprising began in 2011. 3 years later, they're still going on. And your book closes out that paragraph by saying the prognosis of the future of the reason is unclear. Your book goes on to talk about politics, the politics of Islam. I'll let you read that for yourself. Again, I haven't studied the politics of Islam that much. I did look on that map on page 883 about where the oil is in the Middle East, and was somewhat surprised to find that it's only located in a few small places. There around Kuwait is an oil-rich country, and the part of Iran that's on the Persian Gulf is oil-rich. Basically, most of the oil is around the Persian Gulf region. And then there's another big region in the northern part of Iraq. Other than that, the rest of it just doesn't have much oil. But oil is what made the Islamic world more able to assert themselves. Like I mentioned, we'd forgotten about that part of the world for many, many generations. I mean, my history used to talk about the rise of Mohammed, and then we leave Islam never to return to it. Now, I did read a book when I was preparing for my master's final test. The book was entitled The Arabs by Hidi. Her name, yeah, I had to remember the name of the book. And he said that the Arab world is rumbling. And there was rumblings. This was written about the 1950s. And we don't know which direction the rumblings will take, but the Arab world may be beginning to assert itself. He had to leave it at that. Anyway, thanks in large part to oil, the Arab world has somewhat begun to assert itself. There have been revolutions also, I mean, economic revolutions in the area of farming. Ancient Egypt always farmed by letting the Nile River overflow and cover the ground, and that would lay down a fresh layer of topsoil. Then when the Nile River had gone back down inside its normal banks, the farmers would come in and plant a garden and water their crops by irrigation ditches that came from the Nile. Then the Aswan Dam was built in the southern part of Egypt that stopped the flooding to where Egypt no longer has the annual flooding. But the Aswan Dam produced some other environmental problems that they did not foresee. And also the reservoir covered up a lot of the ancient artifacts that we'd like to be able to get back. Now, some of these artifacts were picked up and moved to higher ground. Some of them we were not able to pick up and move. All right. Your book shows a picture on page 82, picture of the contrast to the Middle East. The one shows a picture of a very modern city with extremely tall skyscrapers. And the other picture shows the way people lived thousands of years ago, but still do. Islam is divided into two sections, the Shiite and the Sunni, with the Sunni being more moderate, the Shiite being more extreme. As for the part about women in the Middle East, your book shows a picture of a Muslim woman playing soccer against a non-Muslim woman, and that the woman who's Muslim, you can tell it by extreme modesty in her attire. As for women's rights, again, what your book says about equal rights has to be taken with a grain of salt in view of the revolutions. A lot of the reason for the revolutions has been the role of women, how much rights to give to women. What the Muslim world is afraid of is that they'll lose their women to Western thought and Western traditions. That if Western women develop the attitudes that we can divorce our husbands when we want to, we can choose who we want to marry, that a lot of the Muslim men are afraid that they'll lose their women, and when they lose their women, they've lost their religion.
Well, it sounds like it speaks a lot for Muslim men.
It's what?
It speaks a lot for Muslim women if they're afraid to lose their women.
Well, you have to understand, throughout history, religion has been transmitted from one generation to the next by means of the women. It's the women who people get their religion from, the mothers. And again, if the women develop attitudes that we can dress in Western style dress, and we can go out and get jobs, and we don't have to stay at home, we'll have fewer babies just like Western women do. Islam is afraid, the Islamic men are afraid that Islam will be destroyed. Again, you can take that for whatever you want to. Literature and art, I'm going to leave that and move on.